The Mississippi River has carried more than water. It has carried history for thousands of years. But lately, it's not behaving the way it used to. Where the river starts. The Mississippi River moves slowly through the heart of North America, shaping the continent quietly, without any drama. Long before borders were drawn or cities named, the Mississippi created paths for life. Forests leaned toward it. Wetlands grew around its pulse. Animals followed its flow, and people came soon after. This was when civilization settled beside it, and then trade followed its bends. Entire regions learned to live by its rhythm, trusting the river would behave tomorrow much as it had yesterday. Near its source, the Mississippi begins quietly, a narrow stream winding through northern wetlands and lakes, shallow enough to step across without concern. Here, the river feels cooperative, to the point that it is almost harmless. Water slips past reeds and grasses, reflecting sky and trees with deceptive calm. It is easy to believe this river is manageable. What begins as a small shift here can become a transformation far away. Even the tiniest disruption, like a washed-out bank, a diverted stream, ripples into effects felt hundreds of kilometers downstream, changing habitats and human life alike. What happens to the Mississippi stays with it. Shifts in flow. Over the past century, rainfall across the Mississippi River basin has changed. Storms arrive heavier and more concentrated, dumping enormous amounts of water in short bursts. By then, winters grow warmer, snow melts earlier, and dry periods stretch longer. The steady seasonal rhythms that once governed the river are giving way to extremes, and no 2 years look alike anymore. These days, rain falls hard and fast. It doesn't come gently anymore. Instead of steady rain, the river now gets sudden downpours, and it responds almost instantly. Emergency spillways open more frequently, diverting water across farmland to protect cities downstream. Fields disappear beneath muddy sheets and roads vanish. Entire ecosystems are reshaped in days, leaving a quiet trail of destruction and renewal. So now communities evacuate not once in a lifetime, but repeatedly. Each flood leaves behind damage, uncertainty, and the quiet realization that the river no longer respects the boundaries drawn for it. Even after water recedes, the land remains altered, showing erosion scars, new channels, and deposits of sediment that hint at the river's tireless work. Then the rain stops, and the river starts to change again. Weeks pass, tributaries thin out, and the Mississippi begins to retreat. Water levels fall lower than anyone expects, exposing riverbed and lifting sandbars where deep water once flowed. Navigation channels tighten, forcing barges to slow, carry less, or shut down entirely. The same river that flooded cities now struggles to carry commerce, and industries that depend on the Mississippi are left adjusting to a river that no longer behaves the way it used to, what the river carries. As the Mississippi moves south, it gathers not only water, but consequence. For thousands of years, the river carried huge amounts of sediment, fine grains scraped from distant landscapes, delivered slowly downstream. Each flood spread that sediment across floodplains, rebuilding land and renewing ecosystems. Flooding did more than cause destruction. It also helped build the land. Wetlands grew, deltas expanded, and the coastline slowly moved outward. The Mississippi once created land faster than storms could wear it down. That process has been interrupted, since dams trap sediment far upstream, holding back the raw material the river once delivered freely. Levees prevent floodwaters from spilling into surrounding wetlands, cutting off nourishment that sustains entire ecosystems. Channels engineered for speed push the river along, giving sediment no time to settle. The Mississippi still moves enormous amounts of water, but it carries far less than it used to. Without enough sediment, the river begins to turn on itself. Banks collapse, channels deepen, and wetlands shrink and fragment. Along Louisiana's coast, land that once grew now disappears year after year. The ground sinks faster than it can be restored, marsh turns into open water, and natural storm protection fades. Each year, thousands of acres of forested wetlands slip beneath the surface, leaving wildlife with fewer safe pathways and communities with fewer defenses against storms. The quiet invasion. During periods of extreme low flow, another threat rises beneath the surface. Remaining unseen, saltwater from the Gulf of Mexico begins to creep upstream. Heavier than freshwater, it slides along the riverbed like a slow shadow, forming a wedge that moves inland mile by mile. This phenomenon, called saltwater intrusion, threatens drinking water supplies for communities near New Orleans and beyond. As saltwater pushes upstream, pipes corrode and treatment systems struggle to keep up. Water intakes are watched constantly, waiting for salinity levels to reach critical points. Temporary underwater barriers made of dredged sediment can slow the intrusion, but they are usually short-lived. The bigger problem remains. The Mississippi no longer has the strength it once did to hold the sea at bay. What was once rare now happens more often. Saltwater intrusion is no longer an anomaly and is becoming a warning. Beneath the surface, ecosystems bear the consequences first. Fish adapted to stable freshwater conditions encounter rising salinity. Spawning grounds vanish as erosion reshapes the riverbed. Wetlands that once served as nurseries for countless species collapse in fragments. Life continues, but not without cost. Even ancient species struggle to adapt as the river changes faster than nature can respond. Migration patterns shift, populations slowly decline, and birds that depended on freshwater marshes are forced to find new routes as feeding grounds disappear. What follows is a chain reaction that starts with lower water levels, allows saltwater to creep upstream, strains drinking water systems, and forces industries and communities to adapt faster than they can plan. The conflict. Above the water, the Mississippi continues to serve as one of the most important trade corridors on Earth. Along its surface move grain from the Midwest, fuel from refineries, steel, and raw materials bound for global markets. This system depends on depth, timing, and predictability. Low water disrupts everything. Barges carry smaller loads, and tow sizes shrink. Traffic slows, costs climb, and delays ripple outward through supply chains across the country and even the world. When floods arrive, they strike ports and infrastructure from the other extreme. The river disrupts commerce, whether it swells too high or drops too low, leaving communities and industries scrambling to keep up. Communities along the Mississippi live with constant uncertainty. Some towns are planning not just to protect themselves, but to move entirely. Indigenous communities face losses that go far beyond buildings. Sacred sites wash away, traditional fishing patterns collapse, and cultural ties to the river weaken as the land itself changes. The Mississippi has always been at the heart of life here, and its instability threatens far more than just property. Human intervention. This is not a natural evolution of the river. For more than a century, the Mississippi has been shaped for control. Levees keep it contained, dams control its flow, and channels push it along faster than it was ever meant to move. Each fix solved a problem at the time, offering safety, efficiency, or profit. But taken together, these changes have turned a living, breathing river into something rigid, almost mechanical. The Mississippi now functions less like an ecosystem and more like machinery. It needs constant maintenance with continuous dredging and emergency engineering. Without intervention, it falters. Engineers and scientists increasingly acknowledge a hard truth. The river has been over-engineered. Each solution creates new vulnerabilities downstream. Even the smallest miscalculation can ripple hundreds of kilometers downstream. The river has learned to push back as it adapted to survive amid human control. Restoring balance. Some efforts now aim to restore balance instead of enforcing control. You'll be familiar with adaptive management that allows the river limited freedom to move, slow, and rebuild. These solutions are complex, but they recognize a reality that can no longer be ignored. The Mississippi must be allowed to behave like a river again. It is responding to climate shifts that bring stronger storms and longer droughts, to the ways we have confined it and stripped away its flexibility, and to centuries of human decisions layered one on top of another. Its message is clear in the rising floods, the disappearing land, the creeping saltwater, and the disrupted trade along its course. Every levee, every dredged channel, every lost wetland tells a part of the river's long story. Restoration doesn't undo the damage, but it works with what's left, gently guiding the Mississippi back toward the balance it once had. Living with the Mississippi. The Mississippi has always reshaped the land. What has changed is that it now reflects human choices back with increasing force and clarity. Beneath its surface, the river continues forward, carrying memory, sediment, and consequence toward the sea. And as it does, it forces a decision. Adapt alongside it, or continue trying to hold it still while everything else moves. The Mississippi will endure, but the question is whether we will endure with it or not. The question isn't whether it will happen, but how it will unfold. Communities will need to rethink their relationship with the river, restore wetlands, and learn to live with the flow rather than against it. The story of the Mississippi isn't over. Every flood, every drought, every shift in sediment and flow writes a new chapter. Those who watch, who pay attention, and who work with the river may finally begin to understand what it has been trying to tell us all along. Join us in the next adventure.